We are not linear. August 28, 2014. Hello, Aster. What have you to share with me today? Aster. I bring the news of wonder of you for your consideration. Do you not find it disconcerting that you and I are talking, and yet you and I are one and the same? Indeed, I do. And yet this is a conversation I feel I've been waiting for all of my life almost. However it happens or whatever it takes for this connection to be restored, no matter how disconcerting or crazy it may seem, I'm all for it. Aster. And so then, we begin. Though this is not the beginning. There are many paradoxes in this. Who I am, and who you are, also isn't exactly an I, it's a we. At the same time, we are one. This is the sort of paradox that isn't going to fit well into linear thinking and being. The truth is that we are not linear. We are not formed in a fashion that makes it possible to be in any realistic way limited to such a box. The essence of what we are is actually formless, and yet the essence of what we are is so powerfully creative that we are creating form by our beingness. Allow for these paradoxes to be in your awareness without trying to stuff them into a box of linear or straight-line thinking or concepts. All such concepts are limiting and the very nature of them is unreal and untrue. Doing this is what you've been trained to do, and yet, the true nature of this sort of perceiving is that it is mistaking the map for the actual terrain. Allow me to use a metaphor in order to help you to understand this analogy more fully. Let's say we take a map and we see that there's a line dividing this territory from another. This is, in fact, a fantasy. We may agree to this fantasy in order to designate an approximation of placement on the actual and factual terrain, but this doesn't make this fantasy line a reality. Look at the shoreline of any body of water on Gaia. Can we measure how long it is? I would think so. But I think we'd have to agree on how we would measure it. Aster. There is no way to measure it except in fantasy. The true nature of the shoreline is that it is infinite in distance. In this same fashion, there is infinity in every measure between points, no matter where you place them. The nature of space is infinite. Allow for me to explain, as the linear view of this won't allow for the truth to emerge without looking deeper. When measuring a shoreline, for instance, no one is taking a measuring device and following each nook and cranny, each ebb and flow of the tide, in order to gauge its length. Instead, there is cutting of corners, there is an imaginary line drawn out on an imaginary representation called a map. This map is good for gross and totally incorrect estimations of distance. Who can measure the trail an ant will take from one end of a beach to another? If it followed the very edge of the meeting of water and sand, this distance is far greater than the distance described by a straight line. What if we trace the path of a bacteria or a virus, the path of an electron? How far is their journey from one end of a beach to the other? This is only the beginning of the expansion in awareness that happens when the box of linear thinking is removed. The nature of our beingness is far greater than any of these imaginings which you have been trained to think are true descriptions of the nature of reality. Whoa! This is a lot to think about. I'm thinking that this thought pattern of measurement and reality is a pretty good metaphor. I'm aware that the map and the actual terrain aren't the same thing, but this really goes much deeper than the obvious. It's going to take some time to integrate this. I have a feeling it has far-reaching ramifications. Aster. It does, and we will be using this metaphor again in our discussions. For now, let's just allow for integration of what's been said here to have some time to soften up and dissolve some of the limitations on understanding that are at the foundation of linear thought to begin with infinity. The real world is always a reflection of infinity. All space and spatial relations are also a direct reflection of infinity, as this is the nature of space. The truth of this is only going to be perceived in relation to the loosening of boundaries of linear thinking. We will work on this in small ways in order to make more flexible the thoughts, and the perceptions can then be made more readily and more in relation to actual truth. This will take some time, So be patient. Our patience is great, and it is a reflection of our great love for ourselves that we have been here always, awaiting this awakening and holding the space for it to occur. Our devotion is mighty and we will never abandon our own. No need to rush or to fear, we will go on without you. This is not possible and is another illusion caused by the distortion of linear thought. We will continue this conversation again very soon. In the meantime, your dream time is a good time to come and integrate these important expansions without the hindrance of the mind trap you currently mistake for reasoning power. We love you and we attend you always. You're beginning to remember much more now, and many layers of this are at the edge of revealing the many surprises and answers you've been seeking for a long, long time. No rush, no worries, we are here for you and we are you. Farewell for now. Thank you and farewell. Channeled by Andrea Scully. AndreaStarOO.com